Hey guys, trying to get the live stream set up here. Let me know if you guys hear me, and I will keep updating the page here. Looks like it's going now. Let me grab a link here. Matt Watson. Hello, everybody. Okay, let me get this out here really quick. Get it out on Twitter here, get some more followers in here. And that should work. Okay, I can see it. All right, we got a lot of people in here already, 10 by 10. All right. Got my new monitor installed here as well, so hopefully that ends up working out better. You guys see the windy app I got going on here. You can see the very cold temperatures out there across the interior versus the west coast here, but it's still pretty darn chilly through the Puget Sound all the way down the Willamette Valley. You guys excited for tomorrow night? I mean, you know, it's fun to see the weather come in and whatnot, but it's not so much fun if we're going to get damaging ice, but there's always a chance we might avoid it also. About to turn off your device. A little bit more volume. How does my volume sound, guys? I don't want to like, it looks like I'm pretty high on it actually. I think I'm on max here, so I'm not sure if I can go another step on the microphone here, I believe. No, maybe not. I think that's it. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look... So what's going on here is that, for example, the new European just came in here, and you can see some of these totals start to come up the Puget Sound. And that's still a pretty healthy dose of ice across the area here. I mean, that's almost 4/10 of an inch. That would start to cause some problems for sure. A 1/4 inch can cause problems. You know, our plants here are not, and our trees are already, a lot of times are already weakened. Washington Weather Chasers. Look at that. Thanks for the generosity there. Awesome content. Yeah, I mean, so our trees are kind of weak out here, and you know, we have shallow rooted pines, and they can come down when you start to pile up ice on them. And I don't know if I believe how much I believe this. Find a hard time. I think Portland's probably going to get around a 1/2 inch of ice out of this, I would think. But it is cutting back the amounts through the Willamette Valley a little bit there. Good evening, everybody. Violet Dreams, Kaya, Washington Weather Chasers, first to donate tonight. Thank you very much. Good now. Volume is perfect. It did scroll down a little bit from all, and it also shows that Snoqualmie Pass. This would, I mean, gosh. So this is coming in. Saturday is Christmas Eve. You can see Saturday night, this Snoqualmie Pass and Stevens Pass icing coming up there. I don't know how many people will be traveling, but I guess this is afternoon of Christmas Eve. So I imagine there will be still probably some people traveling back and forth between Eastern Washington. I-90 is usually pretty busy. Jordan D, if frozen rain accumulates on the roads, when do you expect to be melted by? That's a good question. Let's look at that real quick here. Let's go to this, and we'll just go ahead and duplicate that, and we'll go to temperature here. And so we're looking right about 18 or 19 Z for the time to cut off. Let's see if it does that yet. About 32 in Seattle there at 18 Z. We don't warm up that quick, because even though you're going to have ice on surfaces, it's not going to melt a lot by the time you get to about 4 o'clock. Well, you can see we get up towards 40 degrees here by the time we get into Friday evening. So there's going to be melting going on, but it's not like it's just going to like quickly melt across the region. You go overnight into Saturday morning, Christmas Eve morning into the 40s. So you might have a little bit still around on Christmas Eve morning, but it will be melting by that point. It's not like it's going to be 33 or 34. It will get up towards the low 40s, it looks like. Glad we have a stream tonight. Can do Christmas another time. Well, Christmas should be fine around here. Now the problem comes with we start to warm up pretty quickly here. Then we might be looking at some flooding coming up here as well. So I have a 9:30 flight out of SeaTac Friday. That might be a problem. The problem with Friday is because it's going to get pushed back quite a bit. There's going to be a lot of cancellations going on. So I would just kind of definitely call ahead. But I don't know if that's going to be a tough call to show up at 9:30 in the morning. That's going to be when freezing rain is falling. Again, it depends on just how severe this event is. If it's just light freezing rain, it can be dealt with to an extent. But if it starts getting moderate at any time, the airport will automatically close at moderate freezing rain. We cannot operate in moderate freezing rain, period. And the problem is that, as you guys saw here, I mean, it's 19 degrees and I'm right next to the sound, or actually it's like 19.7. I'm right next to the sound here. So this is going to be very cold when this starts falling. You know, we're going to be in the mid 20s probably when the precipitation starts. And you can see a lot of this event we're going to be going through at, in the upper 20s. So that's going to be a pretty hard freeze. So it's going to be pretty disruptive. Yeah, any snow accumulation, another good question there. Let's go ahead and check that. That was ice. Which one was this? That was ice also. Let's go ahead and click on this. So we'll go total snow Kuchera. Now watch what happens here. Now it's going to be really cold when the snow starts. So you see that 2 and 4/4 of an inch over SeaTac. That's going to cover everything. So it's going to look kind of crazy at first. Even 0.2 of an inch will coat everything. And downtown Seattle getting 1/2 inch of snow will be disruptive in and of itself because we're going to be in the 20s. And you can see a little bit more towards Everett, a little bit more as you go towards Skagit and Whatcom counties. Vancouver, BC getting up over 2 inches. Very cold temperatures is going to be pretty disruptive again. I would push out your flights as long as you could. I would not try flying out on Friday. I wouldn't do it. I mean, if there's freezing rain falling, I wouldn't try to do it. Unless you've got somewhere really important to be, I would push it off as long as possible, or I would call ahead and just see how things are running before I just headed out to the airport. Latest Euro dropped to 12 for Linwood tonight. Yeah, let's back up a little bit here. Let's zoom in a little bit more. Where is everybody tonight out here? Whidbey Island, Linwood, North Seattle, Squim. We got Squim. 27 windy in St. Helens, Oregon. Yeah, freezing rain's bad news. I mean, the snow is not as disruptive as freezing rain. It doesn't get really much worse than freezing rain. So let's go ahead and go to Seattle and zoom in a little bit here. What time is it now? We are dealing with about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock here we're looking at. And these temperatures are overdone. We're at 19 or 20 here at SeaTac right now. This is showing 23. So hopefully the temperatures are not being overdone and we get out of this sub-freezing air as quickly as possible. You can see this is right about 11 o'clock. SeaTac's at 32. But you see south towards Federal Way here. Federal Way is still at about 31 at this point. So it might hang on a little bit longer there. And you can almost kind of see the Stampede Gap leaving a little bit of cold air probably out here. If we look at the surface wind there, you can see during the morning hours, see the Stampede Gap winds going here, folks. This is going to bring some cold air out, and it could trap some cold air around here out towards Enumclaw, maybe North Bend. And of course, as you get further into the valleys here, you're going to be more protected. That cold air is going to hang around longer, and that freezing rain will accumulate even more. Nanaimo, -10 Celsius. Man, you guys got a good snowfall up there through southwest BC and Skagit, Whatcom counties up there. Everett got decent snowfall, some areas up there, and North Seattle did better than we did down here in the South Sound. How are the Bellingham roads watchers? I think tomorrow you're fine. I mean, the precipitation is not here yet. So if we look at this as well, we'll go back to the windy app here and let's go to this. Let's go to weather radar. And you can see we've got weather radars all the way down the California coast. And the precipitation is probably just out here somewhere. And if we put this into motion, you can see we're not picking up any of it yet. Oh, did I speak too soon? There goes a little bit here off the southern Oregon, Northern California coast. But eventually tonight we'll kind of... Ooh, did I speak too soon there? I don't know. In the next several hours, I expect to see some light returns here off the Oregon coast. That could even be the start of it up there. As you see on this last loop here. A little bit starting to show up here. That could be the start of some moisture air moving in the region. University Place, North Tacoma. Southern River, Oregon, 10 degrees. How cold is it tonight, considering how cold it is tonight? Yeah, we'll be watching temperatures for sure. The models are kind of underdoing. As you can see, look at the temperatures, you guys. I mean, the Willamette Valley is down into the mid-20s right now. Let's put the wind overlay on here as well. So look what's going on here. You see the gorge down here across the Willamette Valley in Portland? Look at this air is just flowing through there. It's just reinforcing this cold air. It's moving all the way down towards Salem, Eugene, Corvallis, all the way out to the Oregon coast. And I think that Southwest Washington, Olympia, these temperatures are pretty chilly out there. We're probably going to get a freezing rain event out for some portions of Southwest Washington. Also, European painting some areas up over a half an inch for extreme Southwest Washington too. Yeah, early Friday morning Portland area is probably no bueno. That does not sound like a good thing. SeaTac around 3 p.m. on Friday. If the airport shuts down for any length of time, those delays are going to get extended on throughout the day for sure. So you need to call ahead. Be very, how do I put it? Just expect delays. You know, don't get it in your head that if you're going to be trying to leave Friday, you're going to have some flexibility. Have that flexibility in mind. There's always a chance the freezing rain won't happen. However, this is a pretty cold air mass. It's extremely dry. The Arctic air is here. The only chance we have is that for some reason the models are overdoing the precipitation and we can get the southerly winds and scour the air out and maybe only deal with a couple hours of freezing rain. That's probably the best case scenario at this point because the Arctic air is in place. I mean, look up north towards Bellingham. It's 8 degrees just north of Bellingham. Just to the southeast there, it's 8 degrees. I don't know if that's right there for Arlington. Maybe if Washington Weather Chasers is still watching. I know Ben's probably out there in Lake Stevens. I wonder what his temperature is right now. Is that 16 accurate? I think he said he had 15 earlier. I mean, we got 19 here at SeaTac now. We've got 19 across areas of Seattle. So this Arctic air is in place. I don't think that it's going to get scoured out before the precipitation arrives, but we could lessen the time. That's a realistic scenario that we only spend a few hours in freezing rain, for example, across the Seattle Metro or Southwest Washington. Portland is going to be a little bit different because you're going to get reinforcement from that cold air there. So it's going to hold on longer across a lot of the northern Willamette Valley there. Keith Evans, thanks for the support, buddy. Upslope snow already going near Port Angeles over the Joyce area. Great coverage. Thank you very much. Thanks for the support. You guys make this channel. But man, look at some of these temperatures in eastern Washington. Holy smokes. And this looks like it's getting some Purcell Trench action going out here across the northeast Washington, Idaho Panhandle. Look at this cold air moving across. A lot of these areas are below freezing. And you can see up northeast Washington, there's a lot of negative teens out there, and negative 20 here, negative 24. Just incredible. 10 Fahrenheit right off the Skagit Bay. Negative 30 right now in much of Montana. Yes, you look at all these negative 20s out there across Montana. Negative 30s across western Montana. If we hold off the precipitation, you know, I've seen these patterns bust, but the last time I saw this bust, the air mass was not this cold. Right, Kyle Gustafson asked a good question. Would it be drier or would we just get more snow and sleet? If the colder air is a little deeper than forecast, we could actually, you could have the sleet start and stay longer or snow start and stay longer for any given area as well. Yeah, I bet you guys could use a warm up there. I mean, wow, it's been cold. Look at that. I mean, this is such a great visualization of the Fraser River winds here pumping out across Bellingham there. And like we said, there's probably some Port Angeles upslope snow going on out here. I don't know. Does that show up on the weather radar here? Yeah, it is. There's a little bit of it showing up here. So you can see that this is where the cold wind moves across the Puget Sound up here, picks up some of the moisture at the low levels, banks into the Olympic Mountains here, rises, condenses, cools even further, and brings out that moisture. Is there a chance of rain shadow protecting certain? Yes, there's going to be a rain shadow really north of Seattle, or Seattle north. There's going to be kind of a rain shadow working, and you can really see it here. Let's go to the GFS, and you can kind of see it here on the GFS, but let's look at the precipitation. It shows it much better here. So we'll go to precipitation. We'll go to precipitation total. We'll back up, and we'll watch this come up from the south here. You can see it swinging through Oregon, up through Southwest Washington. There goes to Seattle. Now, it doesn't take a meteorologist to go ahead and tell you that you've got a rain shadow kind of going on here a little bit. As you go off into Friday early afternoon, you can see the rain shadow really working across Whidbey Island. That's because we're going to have these winds at about 5,000 feet really moving up over the Olympics here, and you're going to get some compressing and warming here. So it will it'll keep the precipitation at bay, generally Seattle north at that point. And it's really interesting because that rain shadow is really noticeable. Even from downtown Seattle to SeaTac is not that far. It's about 6 miles, but SeaTac gets about 11% more precipitation than does downtown Seattle because of the Olympic Mountains and that rain shadow. Nathan Gomez, thanks for the support, buddy. Yeah, some of those wind chills in Montana are just nuts. I haven't looked out too much in the extended as far as cold. I have not seen cold though yet off in the extended across the Puget Sound in the next week or two. Well, we have 400 plus people in here. That's nice. Is there a way I can see that? Let's see, hide chat. Yeah, 418, show chat. Still learning these tools here. Hood Canal between Belfair and Union, 19 degrees. Snoqualmie and North Bend. That's the trick, because there's going to be cold air trap back there, and the models could easily be underdoing this. And let me show you something else here too, because there's other models that say different things. For example, the Canadian. You can see the Canadian kind of brings some snow all the way down Tacoma north there. But look at just north of Everett there, up towards Marysville, 2.8. You're getting some big snowfalls here on the Canadian and southwest BC as well. So we have to watch out for that. Not just a freezing rain event going on here. And you can see that, big snow is coming in the mountains. And check out Eastern Washington. This is initially going to be a big snowfall for places out here too that normally don't get it too much. Big Dog, thank you for the support, sir. I mean, the Tri-Cities might get going here. I mean, I got people that watch out there and they complain about the rain shadow, but this might bring some nice snowfall out there across the Columbia Basin. This is really nice looking there. I mean, look at that. The day before Christmas Eve, the afternoon and evening, overnight, wake up Christmas Eve, doing a nice snow fest over there in Eastern Washington. Going into Christmas morning there, and a lot of snow still on the ground. There's going to be snow on the ground, really, a lot of areas too. It's going to take a while for a lot of this up north to be melted off. Got quite a bit of snow up there. At least 50 of us are waiting on commentary about Victoria, BC. How much snow do you guys have on the ground there for Victoria right now? You can see the Canadian doesn't bring that much to Victoria. Nanaimo, Southwest B. But I mean, Vancouver looks like they're going to get slammed here on the Canadian. So there's some model discrepancy on where the snow is going to fall. For example, let's look at the European. Where'd it go? Here we go. The European, I mean, shows a couple inches, 2, 3, maybe 4 inches up there for Vancouver. Nanaimo, Bellingham, maybe an inch or two out of this system as we go. Yeah, tomorrow night's going to be wild because it's going to be snowing probably Seattle north, at least initially. And it's going to be so cold that it's going to cover everything, the road, everything. So even a half an inch will be a big deal. And then it'll change to freezing rain. And that's when some problems can really start. 25 here, 10 minutes from the sound. Mazama, Washington, negative 37 degrees with the wind chill. Impressive. We have 3 feet in Abbotsford, BC, 40 centimeters. How do you pronounce that? Saanich? Saanich? Did the live feed go down? Is everybody still here? Right, looks like the chat's still going. Worst case scenario is that the cold air, as it tends to do sometimes, is tough to scour out. This cold Arctic air is going to be dense and it's going to sit there and it's not going to want to move no matter what kind of wind is pushing on it. So a lot of times the models can overdo just how quickly the cold air gets scoured out. And if that happens, it's going to be big problems. I mean, you don't want to extend this at all. You could already see 12 hours of freezing rain at SeaTac or some areas through Southwest Washington. Portland could get more than 12 hours. So if you add 2, 3, 4 hours more to that total, it's going to be ugly. You don't want to start putting a ½ inch of ice on trees around a metro that just does not get a lot of freezing rain. They're not going to be used to this. And who was that? That was Lizzie Stardust. Welcome to Second Cheers channel support. Thank you very much. Wind starting to gust in Portland Metro right now. Actually, let's take a look at that. Let's go to the NAM 3KM here. And we'll go to surface wind, 10 meter wind gust. And let's scroll all the way back here. This is newest. So here we are. Yeah, you can see those winds really reaching out into and across Portland right now, up over 50 miles per hour here very shortly. So it's definitely going to be on the uptick across there, Portland, across the Gorge. The Vista House up there is probably howling already. I know Garrett's probably going to be up there. There he is. There's Garrett. Yeah, if it delays at all, like Garrett just said, there could be an inch of icing, which would be ugly. Patricia Higley, thank you very much for the support, ma'am. Yeah, Drew mentions the snowfall in eastern Washington as well. Actually, let's look at that as well. Let's go ahead and go to total snow Kuchera. Oh, man. So the NAM likes to underdo snowfall events. You can see it doesn't coat much snow here. But let's check out, for example, let's go to the GFS. What does the GFS say about the snowfall for eastern Washington? Yeah, I mean, the GFS likes it as well. Look at Tri-Cities getting in on the action there. That would include Ellensburg, Moses Lake, Ritzville. That would be a nice snowfall out there across eastern Washington. Gusting 34 at Garrett Place right now. 23 at the wind chill at 12. Full gas tank adds traction too. Give you that little extra weight. I didn't see Washington Weather Chaser's comment back in here, but he might have signed off. Yeah, the gorge winds are no joke. Gresham, Oregon, 20 degrees here and windy. Well, you're cold enough for it to be snow, but the layer is going to be kind of thin. So you might start off briefly in Tacoma, Lakewood area as a little bit of snowfall. But you see here, if we put it in motion, that GFS says a few places, Southwest Washington maybe. It only shows a little for Seattle too. So it's not showing much in the way of snowfall here on the latest GFS. Let's actually look at the HRR and see what it's showing. The HRR has just been so wildly inconsistent. But let's look at the 0Z run. It goes out the farthest. And this is going through tomorrow afternoon. The HRR does paint some for Southwest Washington. Like Chehalis getting ½ an inch. Seattle leaves Seattle out. Everett pretty much out of it too. It doesn't. But these high resolution models have not been doing well. But it does show some snowfall for eastern Washington there. Benjamin is warming up in the hot tub right now. Tell him to give us a thermometer report. Freezing rain concerns up to Spokane later in the week. Yeah, that's another thing too. Let's look at that really quick here. Let's go back to the European and go back to freezing rain total, and let this play out a little bit more, because watch what happens as we go on in. You know, we get some snowfall in through Saturday morning, but then as we go on into Saturday night, is this still showing for Eastern Washington? Oh, it backed off a little bit. I think it's a little bit more snowy now, actually, for Eastern Washington on this latest. So let's check this out. Let's go to this morning's run. It was not too bad, but it was painting a little bit more freezing rain out into Eastern Washington. So it backed off a little bit there. But it's better to have the snowfall anyway, right? Yeah, so this is the latest European on the left here, Ahmad. And this is the earlier one here this morning. So you see it's pretty similar for Seattle. A little bit of a downtick maybe, but still Portland or Olympia a half an inch. And it did uptick for Portland there as well. And back here by what this is Bonneville, that is insane. There's going to be some places out here hit pretty hard into the gorge there. Eastern Washington, Oregon, right along the border there, just east of the Cascades. Gresham, Oregon. I'm not sure where Gresham, Oregon is. Where do you guys see Gresham on the map here? Somebody pointed out to me. 21 with winds in the Dalles, Oregon. Yeah, the Dalles in the gorge there too. Let's just go ahead and do this. Let's go winter. Total snow Kuchera. Let's back out a little bit here. Pacific Northwest. And you guys can see the European here. So as we go through, yeah, you can see Northeast Oregon get a little shot here. Not bad for some of the Columbia Basin there, at least getting an inch or two for some areas at least. A little bit for Seattle, but the cutoff is like right down there, of course, at North Tacoma, Federal Way. But it's going to be kind of crazy at first because it'll stick on everything. So it's going to coat everything right away. It's not going to take any time to stick. Gresham is southeast Portland. Okay. To see, yeah, SeaTac still has some snow right now. But you can see Portland here. I mean, you can see it's actually, sorry, it's downgraded a little bit from this morning's run in Portland, and it's downgraded a hair for Seattle, but it's still pretty similar. And really, it doesn't matter what the models say too much. Once the event starts, you just kind of throw everything out anyway. Yeah, SeaTac got, what, 0.6 yesterday, and they probably got 0.2 overnight last night. Woke up this morning, it was just stopping snowing, and it had covered the road again. And as you can see on the map there, Tacoma's looking at maybe, you know, a quarter inch, maybe a little more. Trying to look back through the chat messages here. So let's take a look at the temperatures there so we can take a look at what's going on across the passes. Let's look at the European here, and we'll go to so as we scroll ahead, now we're looking on into Christmas Eve. This is about 4 a.m. Christmas Eve there. You can see all the west of the Cascades is warming up by this point, Christmas Eve in the morning. But look at Eastern Washington in the passes. Snoqualmie still at about, what, 25 degrees or so. Stevens something similar, mid-20s. So as you go on into, it looks like Snoqualmie goes above freezing sometime in the afternoon of Christmas Eve. But there could be a potential freezing rain event up there. Kind of notorious for Snoqualmie Pass, kind of a lower lying pass here. And when you get cold air in Eastern Washington and any kind of easterly component to that wind, it pulls that air through the gap and keeps feeding that sub-freezing layer right there at Snoqualmie Pass. And that rain just keeps falling into it. Yeah, I would call ahead because, and I would be very flexible in your mind about flying out of SeaTac. When it's freezing rain, the airport cannot operate. So there's just nothing you can do about it. I would not be expecting to be flying out on Friday if it's freezing rain is falling. Yeah, there's pretty good agreement about when things are going to warm up. And you can kind of see that cold air trapped back here in the valley as well. And that starts to warm up and push off to the east. And it looks like eastern Washington finally warms up sometime. Let's see. On Christmas Day, things are starting to warm up pretty well. There's still some sub-freezing air out there across some of the central eastern Washington area there. Look at Southwest Oregon, though, getting up into the 50s. Some of the Willamette Valley getting into the 50s. That's going to feel downright muggy here by Christmas Day. Look at some of the west slopes of the Cascades there. Yeah, it's not a good time for an ice store for travel. I mean, because this is when people are coming back and forth. They're trying to get in place and be with their families or fly back home or whatnot. And Friday does not look good. It doesn't, on SeaTac, anything coming in and out of SeaTac Friday is going to be, you need to be extremely flexible because there's going to be huge amounts of cancellations, huge amounts of delays. I mean, if you want to fly out on Friday, you got to really cross your fingers and hope that freezing rain is not occurring. Thank you for the kind words, Jill S. Yeah, that's the problem, big dog. If it's moderate freezing rain falling, you de-ice a plane, and by the time you start rolling around and try to get in place to take off, you might be iced and glazed over again. It's a problem. And I believe it for SeaTac, it's moderate rain. The airport shuts down. It will not operate at moderate rain. It depends on it, like the major highways and the major freeways, because sometimes they can be kept, a little bit more clear. But once you get it to any kind of a back road and stuff, it gets really nasty really quick. Anybody out here can tell you that. I mean, by the time you get into Saturday morning, things are going to be warmer. But when you deal with big delays at an airport, the problem is that it gets pushed out. And then you're going to have, if Friday's really bad, you're going to have people sleeping overnight in the airport and things like that. That's not uncommon. Sometimes it just happens. Bradley Clover asks, is there any chance cold comes back in January? I have a hunch we will flirt with it again. Remember when I said that early in December, I said we'll flirt with it one or two more times. And here we are. We just went through a big Arctic air battle here. We're currently in the midst of it, and I think we'll probably deal with it again at least one more time, probably, if I had to bet. 12 degrees here in Lake Stevens. There's Washington Weather Chasers chiming in. So that's... Are you guys going to be chasing up in south? I mean, there might be some snow up there. There could be freezing rain. It might be pretty crazy up there in BC and Northwest Washington. The crown of the road throws you into the ditch. Yeah, I don't know about Amtrak. I know they have train dispatchers, though, similar to what I do for an airline. Too bad we don't have one of those around here to talk to. Man, an inch of rain would be a problem, huh? Yeah, so we can look at that too. Let's go ahead. This is the European here. Let's go to precipitation, and we'll go to, we're just going to go to total, and we're just going to let this go through. So what time do we see this? You can see the precip moving just off the California coast there. 2 a.m., 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 a.m. right here. 11, 12. So there's noon. You can see it starting into Southwest Oregon at that point. Ryan will be out in Southwest BC Friday night. Yeah, you can find Ryan and Washington Weather Chasers on Twitter, on YouTube. May head down to the South Sound for the onset of the freezing rain. Yeah, there's going to be some good freezing rain. South Sound probably. It looks like it at this point. So here's noon. 1, 2, 3, 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m., just starts between 6 and 7 p.m. for the Portland area there. And you can see it's going to be going on for Salem and Eugene at that point as well. 9, 10. Sorry, that's 9 o'clock right there. 10, 11, 12, 1. So the European showing it just after midnight for Seattle, but a little bit earlier for Olympia and Tacoma, of course, it's coming from the south there. And you can kind of see that rain shadow a bit going on here, just kind of lesser amounts as you go north out of downtown Seattle. So that's going to help keep the freezing rain at bay there. But as you get a little bit further north away from that, you're going to start to run into a little bit more snowfall across Bellingham, Southwest BC, I think. And it might start off as snow as far south as Tacoma here coming up. You'll be able to tell if it's freezing rain by going outside. The definition of freezing rain is that you have a sub-freezing surface. So if you go out like on a wood post out there and you'll see ice accumulating, that's freezing rain. Kevin talking about Mastodon. Yeah, I've been over there. I got to visit over there more. Bird feeders. Yeah, the birds were out today, man. They were feeding all... They were on my deck eating all the seed. 519 people in the chat right now. So Keith Evans says that if Montana hits 1067, that's an all-time record high pressure out there. I think we can put pressure on the windy map here too. Let's do that. There's a little bit of precip showing off the coastline there. I'm getting a little bit enthralled by that. It's kind of interesting looking. So here's current winds. And I believe if we look at, which one was it? I'm new to this. Here it is. So you can see that really high pressure nosing down into northwest Montana right now. You can see the isobars here. You can see the winds flowing. They're starting to flow out through the gorge as we speak now as well. Yeah, let's look at that real quick here. So we'll go here. We'll go to... Let's just show what the European said last time. And this is still beginning of the month here, but let's just look at it really quick. We'll look at North America. This is a long-term look at things here, folks. I just want to see what the European said last month. So here's for January. And this is kind of an interesting look here for Fed. This is February 2023. You can see the troughing here, the ridging here. This is kind of some Arctic air trying to work down in the residual troughing, or the associated troughing, I should say, across some of the Pacific Northwest here. So this kind of has that look of flirting with some Arctic air as you go on into February. So that's kind of nice seeing that. And March, again, kind of the same thing. We can get snow in March out here. As you go out to the summertime, doesn't really mean too much. But you can see this was for December here. And this wasn't bad. It's a pretty good prediction actually here. It's all about this ridging out here to allow that north flow come across the area, let that Arctic air get down to the Pacific Northwest. Let's do... Yeah, I don't know what this is about. I guess it's just for the end of December. I guess that makes sense. So the CFS monthly here showing just big troughing over the Gulf of Alaska here, which makes sense actually. That's what's coming up here. And if this is just predicting for the end of December, that makes sense. So going into January here, you can see some Gulf of Alaska troughing. Not much of a signal for Arctic air here though. Maybe a little bit better there. Hard to say though. That's kind of a messy looking signal for February. March, a little bit of ridging offshore there, but the CFS runs every day. So this is kind of just, and you can see this is for February, a couple runs ago, 2 runs ago. See some big high pressure out there. So you can see how much this thing flip-flops back and forth. What do you think about the jet extension potential? Yeah, there's an active period coming up next week for sure. So if we go out to, let's go out to Oceanic. Sorry, I'm just a little bit tired. I just worked all day here, but let's look at this. Yeah, this is kind of a good map, but let's look at northern wide view. I think it's a little better there. Okay, so let's look at European. We'll look at tonight's actually. This is hot off the presses, so we can kind of look at the jet stream here. Let's start off at 300 millibars here. Yeah, that jet starts racing across the Pacific, doesn't it? Holy cow. I mean, look at this train. This is that 300 millibars here. We're looking at 30,000 feet. Yeah, we're going to bring some storms in pretty close here with this kind of action on the jet stream there. Let's look at 200 millibars here, looking a little higher. Yeah, you can see it pretty well there. Yeah, that jet gets ripping across the Pacific. That could really end up bringing a windstorm or something, or maybe an atmospheric river across the area here. That's pretty nutty. You guys see this jet stream? This is Japan on the left here. Here's Alaska. There's BC, Washington, Oregon, California here, and you can see this jet stream just ripping across the ocean there. So that looks pretty active. And then let's also look at this. Let's look at upper air height anomaly and kind of see what's going on here. Yeah, and this is why we're going to warm up. You guys see the ridging and the general southwest flow across the area here. It's going to warm us up pretty well. One system, ridging tries to stay around, but this is kind of a, these are going to be some decent systems moving through the area here. Then this one right here kind of has my eye too. I've been watching that one for a few days, a couple days already. And then you can see just this active troughing just keeps swinging through here. And this is going to be riding that strong jet stream as you get out there. I mean, look at some of these systems out there. Pretty nasty. This is just kind of a nice winter here if you like active weather here across the Pacific Northwest. And it looks like it might not stop here shortly. We might end up getting some kind of atmospheric river or a big windstorm or maybe multiple of both. Good night, weather nerds. Really cold in Tacoma. Is it MJ? Oh, yeah. I haven't looked at the MJO in so long here. So where are we now? Looks like we're just coming into a more active period. It looks like here. Going into 5, 6, 7. So yeah, that makes sense too. That would kind of line up with a little bit more of an active jet stream pattern here into the Pacific Northwest. But I don't like to put a lot of stock in the MJO, but it can tell you when things get a little bit more active out there. But you can see we've been muddling around kind of in this inactive phase for a while. But we're supposed to come out of it here. Actually, let's check this out. Are we getting any differences here? Yeah, I mean, we're supposed to be coming into a more active phase. But yeah, I mean, if I had to choose, I'd rather just look at the European. This is for Quileute too. This was the 18Z. It looks like it might get windy on the coast here coming up here as we go through early next week also. How unique is this Arctic event? Well, it's not unheard of. But here's the thing. I was even talking about this a little bit at work today. So let's update this. As far as Arctic events. So this is the European. Remember in 1968, 1969, well, you might not remember, but we had two humongously snowy months here across Pacific Northwest. And after that January 1969, we went 22 months without snowfall at SeaTac. It's just an incredibly long period. Can you imagine going 22 months without any snowfall? So it can be rare, but we've already had 2 flirts with Arctic air this year. So this year it's not. That's kind of how it goes around here. Some years you can get 0 snow, and some years, a lot of years are average or whatnot, or you get a couple snowfall events, and some years are just wildly crazy. Yes, we could see flooding coming up here. I see Zach asked that question there. Yeah, Big Dog mentions that too. We've had, these are minor. I mean, especially down for Seattle and Portland, we've had much bigger Arctic events here in the past, for sure. This was pretty good for Southwest BC just because they were closer to that source of the Arctic air up in British Columbia there. We just didn't have a great trajectory to bring that cold air and bring a dynamic system, a strong low pressure that was feeding directly off the Arctic air. We kind of brought that initial shot, and then we had Arctic air just lazily out over the ocean and a marginally cold air mass across a lot of western Washington and Oregon. And by the time it came in there, it easily just scrubbed out whatever cold air was around, and it brought those southerlies up the sound, and so this was not an extremely dynamic event at all for western Washington or Oregon. The further north you went, it was better though. In places like Bellingham and Southwest BC and the San Juans and, a little bit north of Everett were hit hard. Thank you, Dan Hansen. Tomorrow's coffee fund. Yes, I need to go to the store and actually get more coffee too. Yeah, I think we canceled our Bozeman flight today, if I believe. Yeah, it's negative 60 wind chill. It's just wild out there. Yeah, and as you guys know, for places like Seattle, the snow began in 2019, like Jeff asked about. That was a much more dynamic system out in 2019. And get this, you guys, remember that 2019 was a El Nino year. So just remember that. Don't start getting depressed because a neutral year or an El Nino year is coming. We can get whopper winter storm systems during those years. Howdy from Squim. We had about 6 inches of snow. Very nice. I shouldn't have said remember 1969, and we've had some really big snowfalls, but we've had some big droughts here across Pacific Northwest in the past too. Gotta have coffee. Yes, I do. Yeah, I think that between January and March, I think there's a very good chance we're going to flirt with another Arctic outbreak. Look, Washington Weather Chasers, 10 Fahrenheit, 3 miles northeast of Lake Stevens. I was mentioning that earlier. I said a place that has snow on the ground and the winds are calm is going to get really cold tonight, probably single digits. Well, I would find out who you're flying on out of SeaTac, and I would definitely call them. Check your app, make sure your flight is on time. You might get lucky, and maybe the freezing rain event just won't happen. It's always a possibility with this weather events around here. Well, worst case scenario, when we end up with over a half an inch of icing on a lot of stuff, probably the further north you go out of Seattle, though, the less icing you're going to get. So that's kind of good there. But you could start to see some snowfall. I mean, Lake Stevens could get, on the high end of things, they could get a couple inches of snowfall in the 20s. And if that's pretty disruptive because right away, everything is going to stick. So if you're up there in Everett and out to the east a little bit and it starts snowing, it's going to cover everything quickly, and it's going to be below freezing on the road, and it's going to be disruptive. Yeah, the thing about calm winds is when you get winds, you kind of stratify the atmosphere and you can trap heat at the surface, or you cause mixing anyway. And if you have calm winds, you allow that heat at the surface to just radiate up. And if there's snow on the ground, it radiates up even faster. $10. Yeah, the places like that are sheltered, though, out towards Everett or any place really that's sheltered is just going to get colder than the Seattle metro for sure. Well, Adam Jones, a lot of models have been running a little bit warmer too. So if I'll show you this here, let's look at the temperatures. We'll just do this one. We'll go to surface temperature and Fahrenheit. And we'll back all the way up. So what are we at about now? Are we about 10 o'clock? We're 11 o'clock now. And I'll just give you an example here. If we zoom in on Seattle, it's already 20 degrees at SeaTac. Actually, it was 19 degrees at SeaTac, like last hour, I believe it was. Yeah, there's some teens around the Seattle metro there. And the models are saying a little bit warmer. So not picking that up quite well, but you can see how you get pretty chilly once you get up northeast of 405 there, up towards Everett, Skagit, Whatcom County, especially away from the water a little bit. If you got no wind and you got snow on the ground, you're going to get single digits tonight. So that's the thing. We've got Arctic air in place, and you can imagine this is going to be really tough to scour out. Arctic air does not like to move, and it does not you know, it is not bullied easily. It's not like these south winds are just going to come in here and take it away that quickly. What could happen is that we delay the precip a little bit. That's probably the best case scenario if you're looking to avoid this freezing rain possibility, you know, especially Seattle south. If you let the southerlies work on the atmosphere without bringing the precipitation in as quick, you could really reduce the impact of this. So that's probably our best case scenario right now, is just a couple hours of freezing rain, for example. Wind chill at Stevens Pass tomorrow. Hard to say. Yeah, so if we go to temperature and we go to apparent temperature, here's what the wind chills look like. And that's below zero line there. So that's Fahrenheit 0. That white line here that you see going up and down. So once you're up in Bellingham there, you're below 0. And that's why there's a wind chill advisory out here also across some of the west slopes of the Cascades and the foothills, because we're getting some of those east winds flowing out across the terrain there, and you're dealing with some very cold temperatures. You're going to be below 0 Fahrenheit. Patrick Riley, I would buy a good Meteorology 101 book off of Amazon, for example. That's a great way to start, because you can just have it and have it with you, and you're going to go fly somewhere, or you're just hanging around at home and you want to read something or whatnot. You just bring the book with you and you can just kind of go at your own pace. Highly recommend that. Just get a Meteorology 101 book off of Amazon. They can be kind of expensive. A good textbook is pretty expensive, but it's worth it. Yeah, it'll try to warm up by Friday night. I don't know if it'll make it to 40 right away, but it'll probably get there by Saturday morning or something like that. I have not. I was planning on making a series of snowstorms about our best Arctic blasts here across the Pacific Northwest. And I've got like 2 windstorm ones almost ready to release. But since these Arctic air outbreaks have been coming and all this active weather, I have not had any more time to work on them. Yeah, Portland's going to be some crazy wind chills. Let's look at that here. If we click on Portland here, yeah, there's going to be some single-digit wind chills. This is apparent temperature, so this is taking into account the wind chill, at least some of it, I believe. But look at back as you go on the gorge there too, and it goes without saying the mountain areas are going to be really treacherous. Yeah, Meteorology Today. If that's the book I think it is a really good one. Yeah, let's take a look at that. The warnings. How do I do that again? I know it's one of these buttons over here, isn't it? I forgot which one is the warnings here. Do I just not have it up? I'm so tired right now. I'm not very good at doing stuff when I'm tired. The National Weather Service will put warnings up for freezing rain. Yes, let's look at that. For example, we still have just a winter storm watch here across western Washington. There's that wind chill advisory. You can see that. Here, I'm just going to zoom in here so you guys can see a little bit better. But down through Portland, they have the winter storm warning up. Heavy mixed precipitation expected. Total snow accumulation up to 1 inch and ice accumulations 1/4 to 1/2 of an inch. Winds 55. And you guys know where you are if you're near that gorge there. Yeah, I should probably go to bed before I start dozing off here at the computer. I had to work all day today, and I want to be able to do my video briefing per usual tomorrow morning. But yeah, do a meteorology book, a textbook off of Amazon. It's really worth it, even if it's $100 plus. It's really worth it. Freezing rain, and what we'll be getting across a lot of the area tomorrow night into Friday, is when you go outside and you'll see the actual rain freezing when it makes contact with the surface or an object like a tree or a fence post or the ground or the street. You'll see it actually freezing, and you'll feel it when you're walking around on it. And it should be cold enough in a lot of areas that it's really going to freeze pretty hard right away. Sometimes we get these marginal freezing rain events where it's 31 or 32, but we're going to be in the mid 20s when this one starts. It's going to be quite interesting, and it's going to accumulate quickly. But anyway, I'm going to get off of here, and 22 degrees below zero in Winthrop, Washington Weather Chasers. But yeah, I'm going to get off here so I can do my briefing tomorrow morning and whatnot too, and we can talk about it then. But yeah, anyway, hope you guys are enjoying everything. I mean, this is pretty fun, and we'll see how this trends for tomorrow too. There's still time where we could really reduce the effects of this freezing rain. It's seeing these types of setups, not perform as expected because we delayed precipitation. So we'll see what the radar and the satellite look like in the morning, and we'll try to time this precipitation. We'll see what the temperatures are versus the models and all that good stuff. So anyway, I will talk to you guys tomorrow, and have a good night.